It'll be an AFC West battle in Arrowhead. The Chiefs, if only. The Chiefs can clinch a playoff spot with a win or a Ravens loss. Kansas City has not made the playoffs in consecutive seasons since making it 6 straight seasons from 90 to 95. If the Broncos miss the playoffs, they will be the first defending Super Bowl champions to not make the playoffs since the 2013 Ravens. So the Chiefs have won the last 2 meetings. Will the third time be a charm? Max, will KC end the defending Super Bowl champs' season?
Yeah, I think it's likely.
Really?
At Arrowhead, that's a tough place to play.
Black hole.
You see the Chiefs, I mean, even after losing, they're 20-4 in their last 24 games. It's the best mark in the NFL, period. They're really tough to beat at home, as I mentioned. They're really tough to beat in the division, undefeated in the division. The Broncos not very good in the division this year. I think the Broncos, as I've said on this show recently, their long-term future is good. I know it sounds funny to say that when it's like, well, the only thing they really need is a quarterback. Isn't that the main thing? Yes, but the defense is in place, and John Elway has shown in the recent past his ability to get a team to the Super Bowl on the offense without a defense, get him back there and win with a defense without an offense. He's a very capable general manager. Not perfect, but very capable. But in terms of this matchup this week and its implications on the season, considering where it's played and the way both teams have looked this year, I like the Chiefs, and I think that's all she wrote for the Broncos.
I agree with you there. I think that's all she wrote. I think that the Denver Broncos' best chance of winning this game would have been if the Chiefs had beaten Tennessee last week. The fact that the Chiefs lost to Tennessee, lost to Marcus Mariota, I think that they're up against the gun right here. They can't jeopardize their postseason aspirations. The Dolphins are on their heel, obviously. The Dolphins are a team to be reckoned with this year. We can't ignore that reality. I definitely think that the Chiefs understand the urgency of the moment. They will respond, and they were going to be up for a game anyway, going up against the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, which is their most heated nemesis from the AFC West in the Denver Broncos. But when you couple that with the level of urgency, when you look at some of the acrimony that's existing within the Denver Broncos locker room, when you think about the fact that their running game is stale, that their defense against the run isn't that much better, you take into account Spencer Ware and what he's capable of doing. Jeremy Maclin is back in the lineup. You've got a 3 tight end set that really gives and is capable of giving Denver's defense the problem, because their secondary is strong against wide receivers outside the numbers, but in between the numbers, it's a little bit more difficult for them to defend. I think you notice all of those things, you put it together, coupled with the game being at Arrowhead Stadium and combining that with the urgency of the moment. I just think this is one of those situations where the Denver Broncos, I just don't see it. Anybody can win, of course, but I'm rolling with the Chiefs. I just don't see how the Broncos could win this game. The Chiefs could beat themselves, but I don't think the Broncos are going to beat them.
With an offensive line that hasn't done the best job this year, and with inexperienced quarterbacks really on this team, the way the Chiefs can pressure the quarterback, maybe the best in the world at that, that's bad news for the Broncos offense. And then the question is, what can the Broncos defense do? I mean, that's the shot in this game. Can you come away +2 in a turnover differential and make that the difference in the game, even as you're getting outplayed in other areas? Because I expect the Chiefs, at the very least, to outplay the Broncos. And so the Broncos are going to have to get a little lucky, I think, to win the game.
I agree with that.
All right, Kansas City favored by 3.5 in that one. Coming up in Final Take, Stephen A. is going to cover the Christmas Day games. Will Christmas be ruined just like the regular season? We shall see. In which games he's talking about. We got football and NBA. And one person who may have ruined Christmas is Tiger Woods, who posted this Mac Daddy Santa picture on Twitter yesterday. We'll dissect this after the break. Tiger Woods is hitting the links with the Donald. He will play with the president-elect at Trump International Golf Club today, according to a pool report. Stephen A., your thoughts?
Well, I don't like it. And it has nothing to do with him actually playing golf. The fact that it's something that's been leaked and publicized just elevates the level of cynicism that should be accorded to the situation. Obviously, Trump got elected, and there is no doubt that at least a segment of his constituency have expressed sentiments that vast communities in this country aren't too comfortable with. I'll just leave it at that for now. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it is one thing to talk to people. It is another thing to make sure that they are seen, that people see them talking to you, that you're going about the business of ingratiating yourself with folks. And remember, listen, somebody like Jim Brown, for example, who I love dearly and revere because of his accomplishments on the football field and with the America I Can Foundation and the things that he's done in our inner city communities, they're to be commended. But when you just finish witnessing the kind of election we've witnessed, you don't want to hear a Jim Brown saying, I'm in love with Donald Trump. You could sit up there and say, I'm going to listen to him. I hope we get things done. We're here to do X, Y, and Z. But to sit up there and to say you are in love with the man, that rubbed people the wrong way, at least from my community. And then you look at a guy like Tiger Woods, and, here you are. Tiger Woods is, in fairness to him, he's always golfed with presidents in the past. This is not new. We get that part. But for it to be something that's advertised, it just seems to be a bit orchestrated, to say the least. And Tiger Woods is, in my estimation, he should be careful about that. If you want to play golf with the man, play golf with the man. And the people out there taking pictures when it happens, so be it. But to announce it beforehand that you're going to play against a number 500 and something ranked golfer in the world, even though he's Tiger Woods or whatever the case may be, whatever the hell his ranking is at this particular moment in time, it just comes across as incredibly disingenuous. I'll just leave it at that.
I would say that the issue I have with this is the continuing normalizing of Donald Trump and at first his rhetoric during the election, which he won with almost 3 million fewer votes than Hillary Clinton, but which he won in the Electoral College, and said a lot of things that would get a lot of people fired from their job. And that was somewhat normalized by the voters. And those are people who have to deal with the consequences of their own behavior, and obviously still felt comfortable casting their votes in that way. But when people like Tiger Woods, who has a certain social standing, although obviously not what it once was, make this public, it not only normalizes that rhetoric, because I even said after the election, as many did, look, this has now happened, and maybe that rhetoric was toward a certain segment of the population that wanted to hear it for whatever reason, and now let's see what he does. We have to start with a clean slate and hope for the best. But since then, there has been stuff that has been outside of the norms of American political life that has been happening. It's not just the rhetoric anymore, it's the behavior. So the question is, if you're Tiger Woods or anyone, do you want to lend your celebrity to the normalizing of certain behavior, which is outside the norms of our politics? For example, texting intimidation toward news media outlets, not divesting from international business, the choice to not receive daily briefings. These are all unprecedented in modern American politics. Escalating nuclear tensions globally with tweets, escalating tension with China, inclusion of his own children in official business, refusal to meet the press, dismissal of the fact that the election was influenced by Russia and Putin. Like, all these things I just said may not disqualify Donald Trump based on future behavior from being a good president, but they are certainly, at the very least, you can say it's very unusual. Well, it is not normal for a president-elect in my lifetime to do anything like any of those things. And so when Tiger Woods says, hey, I'm going to play golf with him, he's normalizing it. That's his decision. Well, but this is not, hold on, this is not a situation where you simply disagree with politics one way or another. This is outside of the norms of the scope of the experience of this country with a president-elect.
But Max, I'm sorry, man. I got to jump off the reservation on that one, and here's why. You just said stuff that 99% of our population probably don't understand or know what the hell you're talking about.
It's very
because they're not following. Let me finish. Because they're not following it the way you're following it. I get your point in terms of everything that you're saying. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but what I'm saying is it's a bit extreme because you're assuming that Tiger Woods or somebody in that position is thinking about all of that. That's just not true. Like, you know, you're and I'm not messing with you here. I'm being very, very
I'm glad
serious.
you brought this up. I want to respond. Yep.
Let me finish. And complimentary in the same breath, because I listen, you are a brilliant brother, man, and you are a deep thinker. And you take it to that level, but you have to appreciate the fact that if everybody was you wouldn't be special. You're special because you think on an elevated level in that regard. I can't hold Tiger Woods accountable for all of that stuff because I'm pretty certain that he ain't thinking about that. That's why I stuck to the point that I was making. What I'm saying is that whether you want to recognize yourself as black or cannibal Asian or whatever the hell you called yourself years ago, if you're Tiger Woods, one thing that is clear about all of this that's relatively simplistic is that Trump, listen, I don't believe the Trump that I knew, that I spoke to before he ran for the presidency, I didn't see anything remotely racist. I'm going to be very, very clear about that.
I agree with that, by the way. I agree with that.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do. But what I'm saying is that I believe an argument could be made that he was catering towards a constituency. Nevertheless, some like you and others would deem that relatively irresponsible. And my point is, that's clear. That's easy to surmise, to look at it and say, Tiger, do you really want this dude, advertising you essentially as a prop so he could go out there and say, look at me with my black friend here? Is that what you want to do? Or do you want to guard against that? There's nothing wrong with meeting with them, playing golf with them, talking about your foundation, with all the charitable things that Tiger Woods has done. But to advertise it ahead of time is a bit shaky. But to go to what you point, it's more complicated going where you're going.
I want to respond. I appreciate what you said about some people paying closer attention to the details than others may have a different view of what's okay and what's not okay. In this respect, maybe Tiger Woods is not as informed as maybe I am or others are.
Right.
Okay, I understand that point. And here is my point. And whether or not the mainstream media has been responsible in covering this responsibly and making sure people understand that there isn't an equivalency really between the candidates beforehand and that Trump is not like everybody else, and at least in my lifetime, he is something different. I don't know if that's been made clear enough by the mainstream media, but even if it's not, this is my point, Stephen A. It is every person's responsibility at this point, every adult in this country, to, ignorance is not an excuse right now. That's my point. Whatever in the past you may have agreed or disagreed with H.W. Bush or W. Bush or Ronald Reagan or Bill Clinton or Barack Obama or any other president in your lifetime, you may have agreed or disagreed, even Richard Nixon or some, who was forced to resign. But they were all within the norms of our experience and of our politics. And what I'm saying is Donald Trump is outside the norms. You can't pretend he's not. These are the facts, and I'm not just talking about the rhetoric before the election. I'm talking about his behavior since becoming president-elect. Now, as I said, that doesn't disqualify him from being a good president. We will see. But it certainly is unusual and raises the alarm. So someone like Tiger Woods, ignorance is not an excuse. You have to make yourself aware.
But I'm not saying that he's ignorant. I'm saying he's ignorant to the points he might be ignorant, rather, to the points you may have brought up. Or he may not care because his politics might be different than yours. What we have to be mindful of and be careful of is making sure and understanding that this is America and people do have a right and a license to disagree and come from a totally different perspective. Like, for example, I think my politics may very well identify with that of a Jim Brown. I would not have said what he said about being in love with Trump. But I didn't have a problem with him meeting with the man, because if you're trying to address concerns about the inner city, and this is obviously going to be the president, and he could resolve some issues, it's a bigger deal. But at the same time, again, there are people that had a problem with him even meeting with the man, while others like me did not. Everybody has a different perspective, a different point of view. And no matter what Donald Trump is, and no matter how powerful he is, or anybody else for that, No one man is more greater, more powerful than the United States of America. We've had problems before we were even born. There were problems that existed on this earth that some people would label comparable to what we're dealing with right now. We survived, we prospered, we elevated, we conquered, we did whatever we needed to do because we're America. And that's who we are, and that's who we will remain. Period.
Well said, Stephen A. Smith. On a much lighter note, continuing with Tiger Woods, he also gave everyone an early Christmas gift. Can we please talk about this? Posting this picture on Twitter, Tiger appeared shirtless with a white wig, white goatee, sunglasses, and a black Raiders hat. Everybody meet Mac Daddy Santa. Apparently his kids love this. This is what he tells us. Max, your reaction to Mac Daddy?
I care much less about this than the topic we just discussed.
Yeah.
This is.
I agree.
I
agree there.
Sorry, guys. That was a tough transition there. We went another level.
No, the point is, listen, that's what everyone's talking about
Holiday
online
spirit,
right now.
We're being silly. You're deeper than that.
He wants to let his freak fly. Go ahead, Tiger. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly gotten people's attention.
Max, would your kids love that? If you went Mac Daddy, took the shirt off, did the goatee,
if they thought it was silly, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's certainly.
I'd be scared if my father did that.
It certainly hits on a theme that seemed to be part of his downfall as a professional, Stephen A.
Well, that's where I was going, which is why I didn't find it funny. I understand that it's for his kids, so I'm going to be sensitive to that. But let it be for your kids. Don't post it where ultimately it's available to us publicly, because I got news for Tiger Woods. The word Mac Daddy has a different connotation in the public eye than it does to his kids. And when we think Mac Daddy, Max, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not thinking about, oh, you're the daddy.
No.
You're thinking about, you're the Mac Daddy, you're the man, you out there womanizing and all of this other stuff. Well, what the hell are you going to think about when you see that with Tiger Woods? I thought it was a very stupid thing for him to do. I thought it was a very stupid thing for him to do. I thought it propped up and conjured up memories of his past transgressions, which I do not believe was the wisest thing for him to do. He should have kept that private between him and his kids. It ain't none of our business anyway, and that should have been that. But because he let it be public, you grab a different connotation to it. As unfair as it may be to him, by the way, I'm just addressing what other folks obviously are thinking when they hear the word Mac Daddy. It was not smart of Tiger Woods to do that.
Tiger taking us from both ends of the spectrum there. But if his kids like it, then I love it. And I don't want to be hard on him if that's something fun. It's the holiday season. Hopefully they enjoy it, as he said.